In the crushing blackness of our planet's deepest waters, where sunlight has never touched and pressure would obliterate a human body in milliseconds, something waits. The ocean covers over 70% of Earth's surface, yet we've explored less than 5% of it. Think about that for a moment. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about what lurks in the abyssal plains beneath our feet. Every time scientists send their cameras into those midnight depths, they find something that shouldn't exist, something that challenges everything we thought we knew about life on Earth. These aren't just new species of fish swimming around pretty coral reefs. No, these are discoveries that have left marine biologists speechless, sometimes refusing to discuss what they've seen. Tonight, we're diving into the 12 most terrifying finds from the deep sea. Creatures and phenomena so disturbing that they seem ripped from humanity's darkest nightmares. But here's what makes it worse. They're all real. Are you ready to descend into the abyss? Because once you see what's down there, you'll never look at the ocean the same way again. Our first terror begins not with something seen, but something heard. In 1997, hydrophones scattered across the Pacific Ocean picked up a sound so massive, so alien, that it sent shockwaves through the scientific community. They called it the bloop. That sound you just heard? It was detected by sensors over 5,000 kilometers apart. To put that in perspective, whatever made that sound would have to be larger than a blue whale. Much, much larger. The frequency was consistent with something biological, something alive. But here's where it gets terrifying. The sound came from one of the most remote parts of the Pacific, near Point Nemo, the oceanic pole of inaccessibility. The closest humans were astronauts on the International Space Station. Scientists officially claim it was an iceberg calving. But deep-sea researchers who analyzed the recordings? Many of them went quiet. Some transferred to different projects entirely. Because buried in those audio files, if you slow them down and enhance them, you can hear something that sounds almost like breathing. The bloop happened once, 27 years ago. And find number 2. The vampire squid from hell. Imagine descending 3,000 feet below the surface, where your submarine's lights suddenly illuminate something that looks like it crawled out of a medieval painting of hell itself. Meet Vampireuthis infernalis, literally translated as vampire squid from hell. And trust me, the name fits perfectly, describing its horrific appearance. This nightmare measures up to a foot long, covered in bioluminescent photophores that pulse like demonic eyes across its gelatinous body. But the truly disturbing part? When threatened, it doesn't flee. Instead, it turns itself completely inside out, revealing rows of vicious-looking spines that weren't visible moments before. Picture this. You're in total darkness, and suddenly this creature erupts in a display of flashing lights, its body contorting in ways that shouldn't be possible, transforming into something that looks like a medieval torture device with tentacles. Building tension. But here's what keeps marine biologists awake at night. The vampire squid doesn't just live in our deep oceans. It's been virtually unchanged for 300 million years. That means this exact creature was swimming in prehistoric seas when the first amphibians crawled onto land. It's a living fossil, a remnant from an alien world that somehow survived mass extinctions that wiped out the dinosaurs. And every single night, millions of them rise from the abyssal depths to hunt in the darkness just a few thousand feet below where cruise ships peacefully sigh. Find number 3. The Mariana Trench Synophiophore. The Mariana Trench, over 36,000 feet below the surface. The pressure here is over 1,000 times greater than at sea level. The temperature hovers just above freezing. It's pitch black, toxic, and completely cut off from the surface world. Scientists thought nothing could possibly survive there. They were catastrophically wrong. In 2011, filmmaker James Cameron's deep-sea submersible discovered something that defied all biological logic. Massive, white, brain-like structures sprawled across the seafloor like something from an alien planet. These were xenophyophores, single-celled organisms that can grow to over a foot in diameter. Let me repeat that. Single-celled creatures larger than dinner plates, living where nothing should be able to exist. Building horror. But here's what makes them truly horrifying. They're carnivorous. These brain-like masses consume everything that falls into the trench: dead fish, marine snow, organic matter. They're like enormous, primitive mouths, feeding in the absolute depths of our planet. And when Cameron's cameras got close enough for detailed footage, researchers noticed something that made their blood run cold. The xenophyophores weren't just randomly scattered. They were arranged in patterns, geometric formations stretching for miles across the seafloor, almost as if they were communicating, or worse, as if something was controlling them, using them to create messages we're not meant to understand. The footage remains classified, but the researchers who saw it, 3 of them transferred to terrestrial geology within the year. Find number 4. The giant tube worms of the hydrothermal vents. Picture descending into a landscape that looks like the surface of an alien world. Towering black smokers belch superheated, toxic water into the freezing depths. The water around these vents reaches temperatures of 750 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt lead. And living directly in this hellscape, thriving in conditions that would instantly kill any surface dweller, are creatures that shouldn't exist according to every law of biology we understand. Riftia pachyptila, giant tube worms that grow up to 8 feet long and 4 inches wide, swaying in the toxic currents like monstrous red-top trees in a poisonous forest. Here's what makes them the stuff of nightmares. They have no mouth, no stomach, no digestive system. Instead, their bodies are filled with billions of bacteria that convert the poisonous chemicals spewing from these vents into food. But the most disturbing discovery came when researchers tried to collect samples. The moment their robotic arms touched these worms, they began writhing violently, releasing clouds of their blood into the water. And that blood? It glows. A crimson bioluminescence that pulses through the water like liquid fire. Scientists studying the footage noticed something else. When one worm was disturbed, others throughout the entire colony began the same writhing motion, almost instantaneously. Miles of these creatures, all moving in perfect synchronization, as if they shared one massive, distributed consciousness. They found similar colonies at vents across the globe, all connected somehow, all aware. Find number 5. The deep scarier jellyfish, 90 to 110 seconds. Imagine you're watching footage from a deep-sea submersible when suddenly, filling the entire frame, appears what looks like a massive, translucent garbage bag pulsing through the water. But this isn't debris. This is deep scarier, one of the most alien creatures ever captured on camera. At first glance, it looks almost peaceful. A jellyfish unlike any other, shaped like a massive, flowing sheet or blanket drifting through the abyss. But look closer, and the horror becomes clear. This creature can grow to over 2 feet across, and its entire body is essentially one massive, transparent stomach. When it encounters prey, it doesn't sting or grab. Instead, it envelopes its victim completely, trapping fish and crustaceans inside its translucent body like insects in amber. But here's where it gets truly nightmarish. The prey doesn't die immediately. Trapped inside the jellyfish's gelatinous body, fish can be seen swimming frantically, trying to escape as they're slowly digested alive. Their movements create ripples across the creature's surface, making it look like it's filled with ghosts trying to break free. Marine biologists studying deep scarier footage have reported something deeply unsettling. The jellyfish appears to actively hunt, not just drift passively. It's been observed changing direction, pursuing prey with what can only be described as intent. And in one piece of footage that researchers refused to release publicly, a deep scarier was recorded doing something that jellyfish shouldn't be able to do. It appeared to be watching the camera, following its movements almost as if it was studying the humans studying it. Find number 6. The barrel-eye fish. Deep in the Pacific, where the midnight zone begins and sunlight becomes nothing but a memory, researchers encountered something that looks like it was designed by an alien intelligence with a twisted sense of humor. Macropina microstoma, the barrel-eye fish. And when you see it, you'll understand why some deep-sea researchers have developed a phobia of their own field. Picture a fish with a completely transparent head. Not scales, not skin, transparent, like a window made of flesh. And through that clear skull, you can see its organs, its brain, its tubular eyes that point straight upward like biological periscopes, scanning the darkness above for silhouettes of prey. But here's what makes it truly disturbing. Those aren't its actual eyes you see when looking at it head-on. Those black spots that look like eyes? They're nostrils. Its real eyes are inside its transparent skull, rotating freely like living security cameras. When researchers first captured one alive, it did something that left the crew speechless. The fish rotated its tubular eyes forward to look directly at them through the glass of their specimen container. Marine biologists describe an overwhelming sense of being studied, analyzed, almost judged by this creature. Several researchers reported nightmares after encountering barrel-eye fish, dreams of transparent faces watching them from the darkness, eyes that could see through skin and bone. And here's the most chilling part. These fish have been found with human-made objects in their stomachs. Plastic debris, metal fragments. They've been feeding on our waste, studying our presence in their domain, learning about us. Find number 7. The brine pools of death. Imagine diving to the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico and discovering another ocean. A lake within the ocean, complete with its own shoreline, waves, and beaches. But this underwater lake is filled with something far more sinister than water. These are brine pools, underwater lakes of super-concentrated salt water that's so dense, it forms a distinct boundary with the regular seawater above. They look beautiful, almost inviting, like oases in an underwater desert, but they're death traps, absolute killing fields. The brine is so toxic, so concentrated with hydrogen sulfide and methane, that any creature unlucky enough to fall in dies instantly. And here's the horrifying part. They don't decompose. The chemical composition preserves their bodies perfectly, creating underwater graveyards filled with the pristine corpses of fish, crabs, and eels. When researchers sent their ROVs too close, they discovered something that defies explanation. The boundaries of these pools ripple and move in patterns that don't match any known current or geological activity. Time-lapse photography revealed the pools expanding and contracting almost like they're breathing. And surrounding each pool, just beyond the death zone, researchers found something that made their blood run cold. Perfectly arranged formations of shells and bones. Not randomly scattered by currents, but deliberately placed in geometric patterns, spirals, and symbols that seem almost ritualistic. Whatever is creating these patterns, it's using the death pools as both hunting grounds and art galleries. And it's been doing it for centuries. Find number 8. The Dumbo octopus anomaly. At first glance, the Dumbo octopus seems almost cute. A small, gelatinous creature with ear-like fins that flutter as it moves through the deep ocean like some kind of underwater elephant. But in 2019, deep-sea researchers discovered something about these creatures that turned their endearing appearance into something far more sinister. During a routine deep-sea survey, cameras captured footage of what appeared to be a typical Dumbo octopus. But as the ROV watched, the creature began to change. Its skin shifted from pale to dark, then to patterns that seemed to move independently of the octopus itself. Then it split. What researchers initially thought was one octopus was actually multiple creatures that had been fused together, sharing not just space but consciousness. When separated, they moved in perfect synchronization, as if controlled by a single mind. But the most disturbing discovery came when researchers analyzed the footage frame by frame. Just before the separation, the octopus turned directly toward the camera and smiled. Its beak curved into an unmistakable expression of recognition, of intelligence far beyond what should be possible for a deep-sea mollusk. Further analysis revealed that these weren't separate Dumbo octopi at all. They were fingers, appendages of something much larger, much more intelligent, lurking just beyond the camera's range. Something that was using these cute creatures as scouts, as eyes and hands to investigate human intrusions into its domain. The expedition was terminated immediately. The footage remains classified, and 3 of the marine biologists who saw it have refused to ever return to deep-sea research. Find number 9. The goblin shark's nightmare feeding. Some discoveries force us to confront the fact that our planet still harbors monsters from prehistory. The goblin shark is one of those discoveries that makes you realize dinosaurs never really went extinct. They just went deeper. Mitsukarina ostoni, a living fossil that's remained virtually unchanged for 125 million years. When researchers first encountered one alive, their cameras captured something so disturbing that several crew members became physically ill. Picture a shark, but wrong in every possible way. Its snout extends like a flattened sword. Its body is flabby and pale pink like diseased flesh. And its small black eyes have a dead, prehistoric intelligence behind them. But the true nightmare begins when it feeds. The goblin shark's jaw can shoot out of its mouth like some kind of alien parasite, extending nearly a quarter of its body length in a fraction of a second. When it strikes, its entire skull restructures itself, turning inside out to reveal rows of needle-sharp teeth surrounded by pink, grasping flesh. Researchers studying feeding footage noticed something that defied explanation. The shark appears to know it's being filmed. Before each feeding demonstration, it turns toward the camera, almost as if performing, as if it wants us to see what it's capable of. And in deep-sea environments where prey is scarce, goblin sharks have been observed doing something that shouldn't be possible. They appear to be farming their food, herding schools of fish into confined areas and returning to feed on them later. These ancient predators aren't just surviving in our modern oceans. They're thriving, they're adapting, and they're watching us watch them. Find number 10. The deep sea anglerfish colony. In the deepest parts of our oceans, where the pressure would crush a human instantly and no light has existed for millions of years, something has learned to create its own illumination. But this isn't the gentle glow of bioluminescence you might imagine. This is something far more sinister. Deep-sea anglerfish, specifically the species Melanocetus johnsonii, have been discovered forming colonies of unprecedented size in oceanic trenches. These aren't the solitary hunters marine biology textbooks describe. When researchers discovered the first colony, their lights illuminated what looked like an underwater city of nightmares. Hundreds of female anglerfish, each the size of a basketball, suspended in the water column like street lamps in hell. But here's what made the discovery truly horrifying. Each female had dozens of tiny males fused permanently to her body, their own bodies having dissolved into nothing but reproductive organs. Living, conscious creatures reduced to biological machinery. The bioluminescent lures on their heads weren't glowing randomly. They were pulsing in perfect synchronization across the entire colony, creating patterns of light that researchers could only describe as language. These creatures were communicating using light itself. And when the research vessel tried to leave, something unprecedented happened. The colony followed. Hundreds of these nightmare creatures ascending from the depths, their synchronized lights creating a constellation of horror rising from the abyss. The crew reported that the lights began pulsing in increasingly complex patterns, almost as if the colony was trying to communicate with them, or worse, trying to lead them somewhere. Find number 11. The deep sea mining phenomenon. In 2018, a deep-sea mining operation in the Pacific Ocean discovered something that forced 3 governments to immediately classify the findings and shut down all mining in the area indefinitely. At a depth of over 12,000 feet, mining robots encountered what appeared to be artificially constructed tunnels carved into the seafloor. These weren't natural formations created by geological processes. They were deliberate, engineered, and impossibly ancient. The tunnels formed a vast network stretching for miles beneath the ocean floor, carved with precision that surpasses human engineering capabilities. But here's what made government officials classify the discovery. The tunnels weren't empty. Deep within these artificial caverns, mining cameras discovered massive spherical chambers containing what can only be described as machines. Not human technology, not recognizable as anything from our understanding of engineering, but clearly artificial constructs of incredible complexity. And they were active. Electromagnetic readings detected massive power sources running through these structures. Sonar revealed that the spheres were moving, rotating, reconfiguring themselves in patterns too complex for human computers to analyze. But the most chilling discovery came when researchers tried to map